The wind blew low across the Wyoming plains, murmuring through dry grass and the creaking porch boards of rancher John Harris's homestead. He had waited 6 long months for the letter that would alter his life. A letter from the agency promising him a bride, a fresh start, and the end of lonely winters. When the wagon finally appeared on the horizon, dust following behind like a promise, his heart beat quicker than it had in years. The woman who stepped down from the wagon was nothing like he'd pictured. Young, timid, with deep eyes full of guilt and fear. She held a small travel bag close to her chest. Her hair was braided, her plain dress travel-worn but carefully fixed, as though she tried to keep dignity through miles of dust and hardship. "Mr. Harris?" she asked, her voice shaking like the edge of a song. "That's me," he said, tipping his hat, trying to smile through the burden of his own nervousness. She nodded, looking down. I'm Sarah." The driver left them without a word, the wagon rolling away into the wide, empty quiet. John took her bag, led her toward the cabin, and spoke softly, as one might speak to a nervous horse or a hurt bird. "It is not much, but it's home." The cabin's warm lamplight surrounded her as they entered. Wooden walls, a small table, 2 chairs, a fire quietly burning. It should have been the start of calm, but something in her eyes, deep and shadowed, disturbed him. She said little through supper. Every time he tried to talk about the land, the neighbors, the spring planting, her gaze drifted far and haunted. When he finally said, "You must be tired," she nodded quickly. "Yes, very." He gave her the room's only bed and settled himself on the chair by the fire. Sleep came slow that night. There was something about her silence, not cold, not unkind, but heavy with the weight of something left unspoken. As the fire burned low, he glanced toward the door of the bedroom, listening to the faint sound of her sobs through the walls. Whatever secret she carried, it wasn't far behind her. If this story already grips your heart, hit like and subscribe for more emotional Wild West stories of love, loss, and redemption. Days passed quietly. The shy bride moved through the cabin like a shadow, gentle, soft-spoken, and always careful. She cooked, cleaned, and tended to the small garden, but John could feel the distance between them like a wall built of words unsaid. He noticed her hands shaking when she touched her stomach, though she tried to hide it. He noticed the way her eyes avoided his whenever he spoke of the future, the wheat fields they'd plant, the family he hoped they'd build. One evening, as twilight faded into the blue quiet of night, he found her standing by the porch railing, watching the moon rise over the plains. "You're far away tonight," he said quietly. She startled, then forced a small smile. "Just thinking about home." She hesitated. "Something like that." He nodded, stepping closer, but careful not to crowd her. "You don't have to be afraid here, Sarah. I am not a hard man." Her eyes shimmered, reflecting the lantern light. "You don't know me," she whispered. "No," he said gently, "but I'd like to." For a heartbeat, it seemed she might tell him. Her lips parted, then closed again. "Good night, Mr. Harris," she said softly, retreating inside. He stood there a long while, staring at the stars, wondering what kind of sorrow could live so quietly inside someone so young. By morning, she was pale and withdrawn again, her hands pressed against her belly when she thought he wasn't looking. He told himself she was homesick, that maybe all she needed was time. But in truth, the unease in his chest had begun to feel like the slow tightening of a rope. It was past midnight when the storm rolled in. Rain hit the windows. Thunder groaned like an old ghost over the hills. John stirred awake to the sound of quiet sobbing, not the kind that demanded attention, but the kind that broke the heart simply by existing. He rose, crossed the floor, and knocked softly on the bedroom door. "Sarah, you all right?" Her voice came faint, trembling. "No." He opened the door. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, clutching her shawl around her shoulders, eyes red from crying. The lamplight painted her face in gold and shadow, a picture of guilt and fragility. "I need to tell you something," she said, voice breaking. He stepped closer, every instinct telling him to brace himself. "Then tell me, darling, whatever it is, you can," as she drew a shaky breath. "Before I came here, before the agency sent me," her fingers tightened on the shawl, There was a man that—" John froze, his heart slowing to a heavy thud. "I thought he loved me," she whispered, "but he left, and before I could tell anyone, I found out I was with child. My family threw me out. The agency offered to hide my shame, to send me west where no one would know." Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean to lie, John. I just didn't want to lose this chance." The storm outside rumbled low and long. John stared at her, this fragile, trembling woman who had crossed miles of dust and judgment to reach him. The truth sank deep, carving pain into his chest. He turned away, running a hand through his hair. "You should have told me," he said, his voice quiet but breaking. "I wanted to," she said through tears, "but I was afraid." He closed his eyes. "I am not angry because of the child. I'm angry because you carried that burden alone." When he turned back, his eyes were wet. No woman should have to beg for forgiveness for being alive. She broke then, sobbing, shaking, whispering, "I'm sorry," over and over until the words lost meaning. He sat beside her, neither touching nor retreating, his own tears silent. The storm passed with the dawn. The light that followed was soft and cold, falling through the cracks of the old shutters. Sarah sat at the table, her face pale, eyes swollen from crying. John stood by the window, staring out at the wet fields, his mind caught between heartbreak and duty. Finally he spoke. "When I asked for a wife, I was hoping for love, not lies. But maybe life does not always give us what we expect. If you—" lowered her gaze. "If you want me to leave, I'll go." He turned slowly. "And where would you go, Sarah? Back to the road? Back to folks who already cast you out?" She had no answer. He stepped closer, voice quieter now, steady as the earth beneath them. "You came here with a secret, and it broke me. Yes, but maybe that is not the end. Maybe it's just the truth we build from." Her tears welled in her eyes again. "You'd still want me, knowing?" He nodded, emotion thick in his voice. "That child does not have to be mine to be loved. If there's breath in me, I'll see to it neither of you ever go hungry or afraid again." Her sob turned to something softer. Relief. Disbelief. Gratitude. She reached for his hand, trembling. "You're a better man than I deserve." He squeezed her fingers gently. "You are not the one who needs to believe that. I am." As the sun climbed higher, spilling light across the cabin, the two of them stood together, not as husband and wife by law, but as two broken souls who'd chosen mercy over pride. And in that moment, surrounded by the scent of rain and the silence after truth, the world felt new again. If this story touched your heart, hit like and subscribe for more Wild West stories where love, forgiveness, and humanity find their way through the storm.